just want to talk.
Welcome to We Just Want to Talk. I'm Debbie.
And I'm Mariam, and all we want to do is talk about Tegan and Sara.
Okay, I was going to say, are you going to try to pronounce my last name? Because if so, I could help.
Oh, yes, please. Actually, I don't think I've ever said it like out loud.
No, you're just...
Yeah.
Wojowski?
Wojowski. The J is silent.
Wojowski.
Okay, how do you pronounce your channel's name? How do you pronounce your channel's name?
Oh, just wojo4hitz.
Hello, everyone. Today, we have a very, 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 very special episode. And I know I say that every episode, but this one is actually pretty special.
True that. Word.
We have a special guest. I'm going to introduce her in a bit. So Tegan and Sara started touring early in their career to promote their music and build a fan base. They gained recognition for their energetic live performances and catchy indie pop sound.
I don't think you mentioned the topic.
I did say it's about touring.
Okay. Sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt.
Over the years, they have toured extensively, both as headliners and as supporting acts for other artists. They didn't have a huge catalog of music at the beginning of touring, so they started filling up their sets with banters, which made their charismatic personality shine. So they had Riz, basically, especially as opening acts who sought recognition from the audience. Gradually, bantering became a main feature that audiences loved and longed for in the Tegan and Sara shows. Their ability to carry out an entire show with musical tastefulness and intelligent humor has eventually made their fan base increase. This has also resulted in people filming their shows and uploading them on YouTube because we wouldn't ever want to miss a Tegan and Sara banter now, would we? Problem was that not everybody filmed, and the earliest shows are vague and can barely be found on the internet. Now, thankfully, to one special fan who began filming and uploading every show she attended, the fan base has come to accumulate a large catalog of live Tegan and Sara shows full of banters and music. Now, this fan is our guest today, and you obviously know her. And we already did mention that we're going to have her on the show. Her name is Jamie, also known as wojo4hitz. Hi, Jamie.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. It's nice to have you. That was a long
intro. Thank you so much for coming, talking to us.
Thanks so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Honestly, thank you.
Probably everyone listening already knows who you are, etc. But tell us a bit about yourself and how you became a fan, when that happened. We also always ask the guests their favorite song, their favorite era of Tegan and Sara, and if they're teamers or siders. So share a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Yeah. So my name's Jamie. Let's see a bit about myself. I live in Washington, D.C. I'm an attorney. I work for the D.C. government in the Office of Human Rights. So that's my actual real job. I know that people often think I don't have a real job, or a lot of people thought that I worked for Tegan and Sara. It's actually funny how many people don't actually they recognize my channel name, but they don't know anything about me. People have sent me stuff where people are wondering if I'm real and if anyone's ever actually met me in real life. There was a while where somebody thought that my channel was a collection of people and not just one person, because they were like, how could anybody do all of that? And I was like, that's fair.
It's not your name, it's wojo4hitz. So people don't, I guess they don't associate the name with like one person because it's not a name.
Yeah, they thought that it was a number of people filming shows that were all like contributing to the channel, and because they were like, one person couldn't do this, and I thought that's fair. It's a lot. It is a lot. It was a lot. I guess I could explain where my channel name came from, because a lot of people don't know that either.
I want to know that actually. I was gonna ask about that.
I don't think I do.
Yeah, so my first favorite band was Hanson. I'm the same age as Tegan and Sara, and so I was 16 when Hanson came out, and they were my first, favorite band that I followed around when I was a teenager. And I saw it was quite a thing to be a Hanson fan at the time. People would make fun of you a lot for it. So I saw someone online whose screen name was Girl for Hanson, and I liked that, but I wanted it to be a little harder to figure out than that because I didn't want people making fun of me. And so Wojo is our family nickname from our last name. And so HITZ it stood for Hanson, Isaac Taylor, Zach, and that was how they signed everything when they would sign off, writing something to fans. And so I took that from Girl for Hanson and I made it wojo4hitz. So
That's
Cool.
smart, actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's where it
I had
came
no
from.
idea.
Yeah, I know. And I
Interesting.
kind of like hate the idea that people think I would use like a Z instead of an S just to be like cool or something, because that's stupid. I would not do
Because
that.
But
Actually,
because
from
people
the-
like, I mean,
millennials.
I thought it was hit. I had no
Yeah.
problem with the Z, by the way, but I thought it was hits as like
yeah.
songs that are
As-
hits or something.
Same, me too.
yeah, I know, and I feel like that's a reasonable assumption, but no, yeah, I created my screen name back in 1997 when the internet was
Right.
born.
Wow.
Whoa, 1997. I was
Yeah.
3.
I was
Okay,
eight.
I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear. I'm a little bit younger than Tegan and Sara, like barely. So I like to tease them about that sometimes, that every time they turn an age, it makes me feel a little bit better about it because I hear about it for a couple months
Yeah.
before it's my turn.
It
and they
actually
kind of
happens
take-
to you.
Yeah, they take the sting out of it. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I guess how I became a Tegan and Sara fan. I feel like it's really the gayest story ever. My ex-girlfriend's ex-girlfriend was a huge fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Yeah, someone made a fan video of Buffy and Faith. And it was a really, really good video, and it, used the song Come On, and it like kind of showed the tension between Buffy and Faith. And my ex's ex, well, my then girlfriend, her ex really liked the song, and so she went and she found like everything that Tegan and Sara had written and recorded, and she gave it to my ex, made us watch that video. And then my then girlfriend, she really liked it, so she started playing everything that was Tegan and Sara. And I was still, I had dragged her to see Hanson concerts, so when she wanted to take me to a concert, I was like, okay, you've come to my concert, I'll go to yours. And so she took me to see Tegan and Sara, and I went to my first show, and I was just completely fascinated by them and just enthralled. And I was like, where are they playing tomorrow? Can we go tomorrow? Yeah. And we were seeing them in Atlanta at the time. I lived in Atlanta, and their next show, we were actually leaving that night to go to my parents' house in Pittsburgh for Thanksgiving, and their next show was in Philadelphia. And I was like, it's the same state.
Close enough.
We could go close enough, 6 hours. It's fine. I like asked my mom if we could borrow their minivan. And then my mom was like, yeah, you can go, but you have to go watch your sister's basketball game in Baltimore. And I was like, yes, he's playing in Baltimore the day after that. And so like Tegan and Sara had
So
another
it was like
show.
3 in a row
It was 3 in a row.
from
And
the
so
bat.
we drove to
Wow.
Baltimore. We went to the show. We like drove like 6 hours back to my parents' house to get our like early flight. And I was like back in class. I was in law school at the time. And I was like back in class in a Tegan and Sara hoodie on Monday morning at like 9 a.m. Just like, what just happened? I felt like I'd gotten hit by a truck or something. So that was how I became a fan. Yeah, from the start, I was like, what's
Which
next?
year was
How can we
that?
go to another one. It was 2004.
Oh,
So it
okay.
was
We
right
have
on
we
there.
have the list. If you open the drive, I put the list of well,
But then this
Mm.
is. Oh, wait. Okay.
So
Okay.
like the first 3 shows I went to, I didn't even have a camera at the time. I had always really loved taking pictures of everything. I was like the one in college that had one of the actual big like video film cameras because digital cameras didn't exist yet. But like I was the only one that was like there with a camera when I was like in high school and college, taking pictures of everything, taking video of stuff if I could. I took filmmaking in college. I just always loved having a camera in my hand. And so for those first 3 shows, I just had borrowed like a film camera from somebody. So I have a few pictures from those shows. So if you go to my map and click on the link, there's links to those pictures, those few pictures that I have. I don't have anything from that very first show that I went to because I didn't expect anything. I just was going along.
So you only heard about them before the first show through the video
Yeah.
of your ex's ex at the time. So like you've never looked them up or anything. You went to the concert like blind. Have you heard songs at all?
Yeah, my ex had like played some stuff around the
Right.
house and everything at the time. And so I had heard some of it, but I hadn't really looked too far into them. And so I think it was really just like seeing them as
So you went
people.
unprepared pretty much
I was
to the first
unprepared.
concert. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't expect anything. I was just going along,
Mhm.
because she went along to shows with me. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do your show. And then I kind
Right.
of like, I think went into her fandom and just like took it over.
Right.
Yeah, I'm like never
Literally.
introduced me to anything unless you are prepared for me to just take it over from you,
Right.
like with it, because I'll do that if it's something I really like. Um, but yeah, so those first three shows, I have nothing from the first one, then some pictures from the next two. And then after that, I got my first digital camera for Christmas. Right after those shows, I asked for a camera. And so when I went to those shows in 2005, I started taking some video because the stuff that they said
Yeah.
on stage, I just was like, this shit is crazy. I cannot, like, I would try to describe it to people, like the things that they said, and I just felt like I couldn't do it justice. And I just felt like the world deserved to see it because they were so funny and they were so interesting. And
Yeah.
like the way they knew how to push each other's buttons was just,
Yeah.
their comedic timing was
Enthralling.
exceptional. And watching them was just, and at the time, I think we know now like how difficult of a time it was for them. But I don't think at the time, I knew that. I just knew that it was like going to watch a Jerry Springer show live. You're like, what is going to happen? Like,
Yeah.
because you just never knew like when things would just kind of
It's not
devolve
scripted at all.
chaos.
It's always a surprise what they're gonna do
Yeah,
to each
and it was
other
just
on
like
stage.
they would be kind of like taking jabs at each other on stage, and I'm sure it was not as fun to live through as it was to watch, but watching
Yeah.
it was hilarious because they knew how to like set each other off and like what to say, and it was just yeah, you go to every show just being like, what's gonna happen this time? It was kind of
Every show
wild.
is different for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild to watch. And seeing them kind of get into little like tiffs on stage was just highly entertaining because they were so funny and they were so
Mm-hmm.
witty, and
Yeah.
it made it such a show. And I think the bands that I had seen before then they didn't really talk on stage. They were just super
Yeah.
like professional, and they'd say the same kind of scripted things at different points in the show, but they wouldn't really talk about, they wouldn't really talk to the
Yeah.
audience much. They never really talked about what the songs were about. They were like, it's really up to your interpretation. And that kind of stuff drove me crazy. It's like, I want to know what you were thinking when you wrote this. I want to know, what it means.
Yeah.
I know what it means to me. And just because you tell me what it means to you, it doesn't change what it means to me. But now I have more information to like add to this. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
a sucker for song lyrics, like I always have been. In high school, my like notebooks are covered in teeny print of song lyrics that just cover the whole thing. My friends were like, "You're insane."
Oh, wow.
And so it meant a lot to me, kind of knowing what those words meant and like, why did
Yeah.
you choose those words?
It's
Yeah.
intriguing.
It was
Yeah.
intriguing to me. And so I had never heard a band talk about that stuff on stage, and I'd never had a band talk like they talked on stage. Just crazy. I
Yeah.
was 23, they were 24. They were just like swearing on stage and saying, all
No
kinds
filter.
of shit to each other.
Yeah.
No filter whatsoever. I have one of my favorite videos of them that I took in 2005 is them introducing Divided. And Tegan was like, I didn't really believe that Sara wanted to be a musician, so I had her killed and I hired this young lady. And Sarah's just like, hey, like and then Tegan talks about how they were just fighting a lot, and their mom would about what they should do, whether they should pursue music, and their mom tried to get them to like talk to each other. And she's like, so she took us out to dinner and tried to make us talk, and Sara called me a motherfucker, and then our mom put us
I remember this.
yeah, but she was a
Them in
sports therapist.
therapy.
Didn't
Yeah.
really work out. So like
Yeah.
I called her a motherfucker, and our mom took us out of therapy, and I wrote this song, and it's called Divided. And I was like, what is
Yeah.
happening? This is bonkers. Like it was just wild to me. I just never seen anyone like act like that on stage. And it was amazing to me, to just be like, young and in your 20s and see people that just talk like you talk and
Yeah.
Yeah.
you'd say, and not just this like weird professional distant facade that
Exactly. The distance. Yeah.
Yeah,
They
they're very,
they
like,
did erase the distance.
personable,
Yeah.
I guess it's the word you can say.
personable, yeah,
Yeah.
relatable.
Relatable, yeah.
And I was seeing Hanson, I was seeing other bands that were huge, that were in big stadiums, and I got to be in like these small smoky little bars that they were playing in at the time and
Yeah.
just stand at their feet and like listen. Like once at one of those shows, I turned around during the opener and Sara was standing behind me just watching the opener. And I was, and one of those shows didn't have a backstage. They had to walk through the crowd to get onto the stage, and like in the middle of the show, it was like, is there a bathroom out there? And everyone's like, yeah, it's over here. Come down here. And some girls were really like, no, come down. And Tegan's like, maybe not. Maybe it's fine. Like,
Maybe I'll hold.
It just was so different, and I loved it. And I just loved the way they were on stage. And YouTube didn't exist yet either.
Yeah.
But LiveJournal was a big community at the time, and that was where I really found Tegan and Sara fans for the first time. And so I would record these videos and I would upload them to one of the file upload sites at the time, and I'd post the links on LiveJournal so people could download them and watch them. Which once I found a whole show of mine that was uploaded on YouTube, and I was like, what the heck? Like, and then I remembered I used to just upload full shows for people. So yeah. At the time, I only had 500 megabyte memory card, so I could only film like 5 minutes of video.
Yeah, different times.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite song?
Yeah, I think my favorite song has just always been The Con. I think when I heard it, it was so different from anything they'd done up to that point. Like, I felt like they were really good in kind of the upbeat, depressing kind of genre, like it sounds really like fun, but you listen to the lyrics and you're like, ooh. But I think The Con was the first thing I listened to where it felt really like heavy. It like just had so much weight to it, like the bass kind of, and you're just like, oh fuck, this is, it just felt so intense, and it's
a headbanger.
It really hit me when I listened to it. I was in a tough place at the time, and so like hearing it, I was just like, wow, that's a lot. It was a lot to absorb, and so I always just thought it was brilliant.
You have this memory attached to it, I guess.
I do. It's very vivid. Just sitting down with headphones and listening to it on MySpace where they posted it. So
is The Con your favorite record?
It is, yeah. I just think it's a brilliant record, and I think it's just so raw that I feel like that kind of thing just can't be faked or replicated, just the like sheer, where it's just
The Con is probably the album we know about the most because they talk about it so much. Most of the songs they played live were from The Con, because I did that research recently. And I think out of 10, 6 of them are from The Con that they played the most.
It's the record that I cried to the most when I was 19.
Yeah, I have trouble listening. I had trouble listening to the actual record for a long time.
I can't listen to Dark Come Soon anymore at all, because I remember I was in a shittiest place and I used to listen to that like on repeat, and like right now I cannot for the life of me listen to that.
I couldn't listen to it, but I'm like, if I want to hear these songs, I have to see them live.
Right.
That's what I
otherwise
would do. Otherwise I was like, I can't handle listening to this by myself. It's too much. It's too intense,
too deep,
too much to handle.
Are you a teamer or a sider?
Oh, I feel like I can't choose sides. Like, it's been so long, I can't. They're both
not anymore.
They're both so like different and special.
Yeah,
all their own ways. It's
That's
just
fair.
impossible.
Debbie is a teamer. I'm a sider.
Yes, so we're the perfect team.
Yeah, but I love them both, of course.
Yeah.
I want to tell you something about when I discovered Tegan and Sara. It was in 2013, so 12, 13, basically, when I started to get into them. So the Heartthrob was just out, and I just like the first song that I discovered wasn't actually a closer. It was something Meals.
Clever Meals.
Clever Meals. Yeah. So randomly, Clever Meals, because that was the song that our professor made us interpret in poetry class, because I'm an English major. I know. And she was a fan. She was a huge fan.
Oh,
she still is. So I was like, oh, I like this band and I like this. And then I listened to some of their music and I loved it, but like I kind of slept on it. But then I kept like, thinking about them. So I started to listen and all of that. But here's the thing. The only way that I discovered who Tegan and Sara like actually are or were, it was through your videos on YouTube, because I haven't seen a single show
Did you ever write a note to me or anything on YouTube? I swear I remembered something from someone from
Maybe,
Jordan.
maybe. I mean, I've been a fan since 2013, so probably. But I want to thank you because, like, I remember the first banter that I saw was Sarah's ex-girlfriend, Christina, I think.
Yeah.
Simpson.
Yeah, the
So
banter.
yeah, that
That's
was
my most
like
watched video of theirs, I think.
it's my
Mhm.
favorite because the first one that I saw and I kept watching banters. I remember like even like when I became a fan and you still like went to shows and like I would just have them all. I was just on Divi like in 2017 I didn't hear any of the Con X until like the
Oh
summer between
yeah.
2017 and 18 and I watched them all. I just watched the banter so I can feel included because I've always felt so excluded out of the fan
Yeah,
base that I kind of left for a bit until
right.
quarantine when they did Where Does the Good Grow? Because I felt like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm into this as well. And then I
That's when
met
I
Debbie.
became a fan. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's when I became
It's
a fan
like
during
Oh,
the
wow.
pandemic.
I didn't have
Yeah,
merch. I didn't have any of their records. Like then they published what was it called? High
high
School. And
school.
then I was able to buy that. I was able to get merch. And now I'm
Yeah.
just working on maybe like a miracle happens and I get to the show because if it happens, that's great. So yeah.
Wow. Good luck. I hope
Yep.
so. Which ones would you be trying to go to?
Well, Guelph, if I
The
if I
last
do
three
arrive,
ones
It won't be at
were
those ones, I don't think, but
oh. Which ones are you going to?
the first three, and then the two, I think, over Easter weekend. We were bummed that they moved the fourth one because we
Oh
were
yeah,
planning
they
to
yeah,
go
because
yeah.
they're going
before.
to the Junos.
I don't think I can do that, the new one.
Well,
So
that one concert that they moved is one of the ones that is further.
yeah.
So at least you don't have to make that travel.
I mean, it was like 2.5 hours drive, which is kind of nothing at this point. So
Yeah.
done some
All the
crazy
things
drive.
you've been through, this is nothing.
Yeah,
2 hours
like
and a
I think
half driving.
the worst was like, well, driving from San Francisco to Portland was like over 10 hours. So
Whoa.
we were like, we're gonna miss the show.
Did they have one concert one day and then the next one the next day?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
did they drive too? Like in
Yep.
their bus? Yeah.
You know what? I don't know if they drove or they flew, but they might have flown, but all of their band and crew and gear
They
had to
had to
drive.
do it.
So
Yeah, it's true.
yeah. And then another one was driving from Seattle to Boise, Idaho. That was also, I don't think we realized it was so far. And we just drove the entire night and got there in the morning and just got in
Went to
line.
yeah. Wow.
So,
Okay, I'm gonna just talk about the latest Tegan and Sara news so
yeah.
far.
Yeah.
Last time we recorded was December 25th. So between December 25th and today, which is January 20th, there were a bunch of news because we had no news at all until the Zoom that they did with fans on January 7th. They are going to participate, or they're going to be part of it's a Peacock show called In the Know. So they're going to be interviewed. It's like, I think it's a show about a podcast. And they're going to be interviewed. Comes out January 25th. I don't know if there are episodes, and then I don't know which episode they're on, but it comes out January 25th. It's called In the Know on Peacock. They
That's
released
in 5 days. Okay, interesting.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if it's available in Canada because Peacock is, I think it's an American streaming service. Junior High is now, they released a version in French, which they didn't
Mhm.
talk about it, but I found out, so I'm telling you now. Um, the sequel to Junior High also is available for pre-order. It's coming out in October 1st. It's called
Stop.
Crush, the graphic novel. Oh yes, they did the Zoom on January 7th, and they revealed something. So I'm gonna pull it up. Hold on. They're writing a new book, a children's book for ages 10 to 14. It's a mystery fiction. It's not a graphic novel. It's like a chapter book. They're on January 7th, they were working on the set list, the design, and merch for the Not Tonight tour, and Emmy is part of it, so that's exciting. She's going to do merch and I guess the set design too. They said that they've been booking shows for spring and summer, so please release them already so we can figure out our life
Exactly.
for the
It is
year.
almost spring.
I know, right? They recorded an episode of Where Does It Good Grow for Substack, so that's coming back. I'm really excited for that because they
Same.
did that
Even though I
for-
like it better when we can
on
interact in the
Instagram.
comments
Yeah, when
because
it's
it's
live.
funnier.
Yeah,
I don't.
that was
Yeah,
fun.
it's not gonna be live anymore though. Faded Like a Feeling reached 1 million streams on Spotify. The other or four singles also reached 1 million a while ago. That's not like super important, but I thought I would say. And our podcast, We Just Want to Talk, is on Instagram now. We didn't have an Instagram, but we do. So go follow us
Somehow this is on Tegan and
please.
Sara news. Somehow, but okay, it's
Somehow.
not Debbie
Someone
and
wrote it
Mariana
there.
news.
I think that works. That fits.
Yeah. It's the news.
Yeah.
Go follow. Follow us on Instagram. Want to talk TNS Pod
And
on
and
Instagram.
maybe we'll tell you like exclusive news like you don't know about, right? So like, right, Debbie? No,
What?
no,
On Instagram?
We're getting confused.
yeah, no, like in our podcast. So like, appreciate us.
Well, if you listen to our podcast, you're gonna listen news that Tegan and Sarah don't post themselves. So
Yeah.
it kind of is exclusive.
Now basically, we have a distinction between the shows pre So Jealous and post So Jealous. And that's because of not only the filming, but a lot has changed then. Basically, the emergence of digital cameras and the increase in popularity of Tegan and Sara that came about during the So Jealous era. It became easier to film and access pre-filmed shows online as well. Many aspects of touring have also changed during that era, as TNS were finally able to have a tour bus instead of a van, or touring in a van, as they used to be before that. Each era also started to have its special, unique touch through the implementation of stage designs that cater to the theme of the album, usually like we discuss, and special merchandise. So you have the merch. Did they have merch in If It Was You?
Yes.
Yeah,
They
definitely.
did. All right. Yeah. But
I
like
think
it's
If It Was You was the first time that they had background drop down like
so it's not So
pictures.
Jealous. Uh-huh.
No, but before If It Was You, I don't think they ever had any type
No.
of like. I think they had merch probably.
Merch,
But-
they did. They did. And CDs. They talked about this.
Yeah, but they
Like,
didn't.
they used to
it was them and guitars, and that's it.
Yeah, but like in
Before
So
So
Jealous,
Jealous,
everything
or If
changed,
It Was
even their
You.
clothes. Like they had specials, clothes for stage. But like I feel like the clothes thing started to change during Sainthood, because like in So Jealous and the
Yeah.
con eras, they were still wearing like their casual clothes.
Normal clothes, I
for
think
stage,
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, until Sainthood,
Yeah.
until Sainthood. So the con, yeah, they were still wearing, I guess, their regular clothes until Sainthood. So that's, yeah, they started, I guess, thinking about having tour outfits starting If It Was You, or Sainthood.
Yeah, I asked Emmy once about the white tiger that's on stuff for So Jealous. And she was just like, yeah, it was just in the background of something that I was taking. She said she was taking pictures of a little red truck that she'd made out of cardboard or paper, and there was just like a poster behind it of a white tiger. And she's like, it really didn't have any symbolism. And I was like, oh, I thought it had to do with the fact that they just wore black and white stripes like all the time for all those
Yeah.
shows. And she's like, oh, that's better. I'm gonna say that from now on.
Sometimes
That's
things
funny.
just work out. So Debbie, these are the shows that Jamie has been to. That
Yeah.
So Jealous.
So from each
Right.
era,
Yeah.
and total. Hold on.
Oh, you're in
Do you
your
know
accounting.
by heart?
It's like 260 something, maybe close to 270. And it's hard to, so when I count that up, I include all Tegan and Sara like appearances that I have been to, because I wanted to keep track of every time I went that they were at. So it's, mostly shows, but there's like the random things here and there, like when I was in the Back in Your Head music video, I'm like, they were there, they sang, I heard the same song for 16 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Sarah was actually singing whenever they would cut the music. She'd keep singing anyway. So I'm like, there was a performance, sort of. They were there, I was there. Like, I don't know what
You
counts.
count it. You count it.
I counted going to, I had at the time my brother's girlfriend worked for whatever Conan O'Brien was on, and so she got me tickets to see them on Conan. So I'm like, that was
Cool.
kind of a show. They played a couple songs. I was there. So that's there,
Yeah.
just not times they've done book readings and things like that. Those are not
Mhm.
exactly shows, but like the get along screenings, I'm like, they were singing on
Mhm.
the screen and they were there in person and answered questions.
Counts.
It count. Like I
Does
traveled, we
count.
bought
Yeah.
tickets, like I don't know. So I just include everything.
What
Yeah.
about Parahoy? Did you include Parahoy? Because
Well,
I think
yeah, there
you
were
did go to
was it
Parahoy.
2 or 3 concerts?
It was 3. Yeah.
Just
Three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
three shows they did and everything. So yeah, absolutely included those. In my map, it's just funny because I didn't know where to put the pin. So I just kind of like was like off the coast of Florida. I knew
Oh
that we went
yeah, I haven't thought
to
of that.
Pacific Island and back. And so I like kind of just gauged like roughly where we were when that show happened. And
Yeah.
that's where I put the pin.
Yeah,
So-
I wanted to compare because we also wrote down by ear how many Tegan and Sara concerts there were.
It's a little
So-
alarming.
Because Tegan and Sara, so according to the setlist website, they did 1,011. They
Yeah.
played 1,011 concerts.
Oh my.
Yeah, and the one, of course, the year that they played the most was 2013.
That was crazy.
I think because they opened for
Fun.
what
A lot of
Fun
people,
and
but like, but
Katy
if you
Perry
look-
and
If you look 12, 13, 14, it's a lot of shows,
yeah.
which is Heartthrob. And out of all of these, Jamie herself went to 60. I think that's the number said up there.
For which one of the
Heartthrob.
only 2 shows in 2015, but like they were
Yeah,
very
'cause they-
active in 2015.
Well, they didn't even have shows. They like performed on the Oscars.
Yeah, the Oscars
They didn't
and
have actual shows you could go to.
2015 and 18, they didn't.
18.
They
I know they
didn't
were
play
writing the memoir.
shows.
I know that.
2018.
But like 15, they were so active on social media, and I guess because they
I
were
want to know
preparing
what those
Heartthrob.
2 in 2015 were. Is it performing at the Oscars? Because that was like one of the only performances they did.
Yeah. FIFA Women's World Cup. I remember this.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
I
So
remember
they
this.
weren't.
man, I wanted to go to that
And
so bad.
Oscars, yeah.
Because I
Didn't
went
like
to
the one that Tegan uploaded herself in like a jeans overall.
I think I saw this the other day, and it was the weirdest thing because they had people dancing in the background. Is that the one?
For the Oscars?
No,
Or
for
World Cup?
the
No, I
Women's
don't
World
think so.
Cup
I don't
opening.
know.
I don't
Maybe.
remember. I don't remember. I don't think we were able. I don't know if we were able to watch it or something.
No, we didn't watch it. No.
Yeah.
But
There
Tegan
was
did
some-
upload a picture on Instagram beforehand, and it was her in jeans overalls, I think.
There was some video that was posted somewhere where they're in a stadium. It's daylight, and
That
it's
sounds like
yeah. I think it was this.
I went to the World Cup final that year in Vancouver, but
Ooh.
they performed at the opening, I think.
Yeah,
I went to the end.
yeah,
So
2015.
they've done 1,011 like appearances, and I've been to like 270 of those.
Yeah, my math said 160.
That's a lot.
269.
That's more
So you
than I
need-
expected.
You need one more for
I
to
need one
fit
more.
to 70.
It'll be soon.
Yeah.
So
March
that's
March
like,
20th.
that's a crazy percentage of that's more than I thought.
That's 20%,
crazy.
kind of.
Especially 'cause I didn't start going to shows until they've been performing for like 6 years. And
Yeah,
that's the-
that's something we wanted to mention too. So before you started following them and going on shows in 2004, and
Yeah.
before that, there's zero to none like things online for people to watch. There are a few concerts, but they were filmed by like, I guess, was it companies that used to do that, like bootlegs? It wasn't fans, right? That did like all the concerts that we have in full before So Jealous.
Oh, it's usually like a special
Media
thing that,
company, like
Mhm.
who would do that?
yeah. Yeah, it's like they've arranged to like film a whole show, usually at festivals or something like
Mm.
that. See where it happens, where they just have an entire production crew like film a whole show and then release that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Or if
there
they
are some
live
of those.
stream it.
But the quality is
after
very
that-
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But after that,
Yeah.
like Miriam mentioned earlier, like digital cameras became more common, and then people started sharing
Mhm.
the footage and stuff. And so touring wise, until So Jealous also, they only like drove in vans, they didn't have a bus. So the evolution of touring, for them, they started very small, just the two of them, and then
Mhm.
they had vans and then bus, and then now, well, now they, when they peaked, they had a bus just for themselves, and then
Yeah.
did they ever have more than two buses?
I don't think so. I don't remember there ever being more than two.
Because now they share the bus again with the crew,
Really?
Yeah.
with
Well,
Cry
they're back
Baby.
to not being on a label, so they don't have the like level
Mm.
of funding
Yes,
not being on a major label. But
yeah.
I remember I interviewed Tegan in 2005, and she, like it was at a laundromat. I like got to the venue and they were like fighting over who was gonna wash their laundry, and I was just like walked into the middle of it, and they both just had, it was like in a venue that had this space at the front for standing and then seats, and so there were like I think family and stuff in the seats, and they were just in that space in the front with their suitcases like torn open, just like yelling at each other about like who was going to do the laundry. And I walked in through the side door, and I was just like watching it, and I was just like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do here? And like, because finally like Tegan, lost the argument, and like she was there like trying to
Oh.
cram her and Sarah's stuff into like one suitcase, and she was just like still just like kind of angry and muttering to herself, and she was just like, good idea, Sarah, because like stuff wasn't fitting and everything. And I just like walked up and I was like, hi, I'm the one that called about the interview, because I'd called when I got there. And she was like, yeah, do you mind if we go somewhere else? And I was like, no, like whatever. And she was like, okay. And so I just followed her, and it was to the laundromat. I was like, yeah, it was the most stressful hour and a half of my life, because she was just talking about how she, they'd finally gotten a bus, but for this tour, it was a little bit shorter. So they decided to just get a van. And she was just like talking about how they'd driven that morning and she was super car sick, and they like had been out with friends the night before, and they didn't usually drink when they were on tour because they're like, we feel like the shows will be terrible. But she's like, we had friends in town, it was their last show and they were leaving, so we like had some drinks, and now I feel really hungover. And she's just like, she's like just going on about how she feels like sick and
Just
hungover,
ranting to you about
Yeah.
ranting to me. And she left her hair straightener in the hotel, and it was expensive. I was just like,
Aw.
oh my God, I'm like her sole entertainment for like an hour and a half while the laundry is going. I was just like, I had never felt more stressed before in my life. And like they didn't know who I was at the time. I was nobody, and so it was just it's hilarious. I still have the audio, and like you can barely hear over the sound of the washing machine sometimes.
Oh my
no.
God.
Yeah. But I'm glad that I recorded it. I wanted to video it, and they were weird about letting me have a video camera, and finally they were like, okay, sure. But then I felt weird, so I didn't. I kind of wish I had. That would have been cool, but it's cool to have the
Yeah.
audio anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow,
that was
cool.
a
You
crazy.
basically answered one of my funny, like I had a question, like a funny story.
I mean, I feel like that the next time when I was there for the Back in Your Head video, I had
Oh
flown
yeah,
from
tell us
Atlanta.
about this.
Yeah, I was supposed to be studying for the bar exam in Atlanta. I went to law school in
Yeah.
Georgia. And so I was studying, and a friend of mine saw that they had posted for extras, and I was just like, I literally can't do that. I'm taking the bar in 2 weeks. I can't. And another friend like messaged me and was like, so you have your plane tickets yet? And I was like, don't push me. And then I was
Me
just
with
like,
all my
oh
life
God.
savings just going to
I was
Canada.
like, oh my God, I have to go. And I had just like left a family vacation in Mexico. It was it was our cousin's wedding, and I'd flown back early because I was studying for the bar. And so I was also like pet sitting for some friends at the time, and I was just like, I can't leave. What do I do? And so I like got a friend of mine to take over the pet sitting, and I flew the whole way to Seattle and stayed with somebody I'd met at like a summer study abroad program, and then like drove to Vancouver. I'd never been to Vancouver. I
Whoa.
had no idea where I was going. Smartphones didn't exist yet. I just had an address. of the school that we were supposed to go to. And like, I had a cell phone, I think, but I had no phone number. So there's no one I could call if like I couldn't find it. So I'm like driving around Vancouver and I'm like, I have lost my fucking mind. What am I doing? Oh my God. Like,
This is
Oh my
my
God.
worst nightmare. This is what I'm
this is
scared of. It's like,
insane.
I was thinking,
Yeah.
about, how would the phone work? Who do I call if I reach
There
Pearson?
was no one to call. No one knew I was there except the guy I stayed with and my friend who was doing the pet sitting for me. Cause I was like, my family finds out I left my cousin's wedding to study for the bar and then did not go study for the bar. They will kill me. Like, yeah, there was no one I could call. And I finally saw high school and was like all these kids dressed in black outside. And I was like, that's the right
Ah,
place.
That's
Thank
Must be
God.
it.
But it was just, I was like, what am I doing? And I got there and they said that they would need some people to stay later at the end of the day to like be in extra scenes. And so I just kept like panicking and like talking to whoever I could, being like, hi, I like came here the whole way from Atlanta. Can I stay and be in the extra scenes? Because like I came a really long way. You know, I didn't know how they were going to pick the people. And I was just so anxious about it. And like at some point, their mom finally walked up to me and was just like, are you the one that came here from Atlanta? And I was like, oh. And she was like, oh, my sister's from Atlanta. And I was just like, yeah, I met her when I interviewed Tegan in the laundromat. And she was like, oh, cool. And I was like, no, none of this is cool. This is not cool.
Not
This is-
cool.
And she was like, no, it's great. It's really great. It's fine. She's like, I loved Led Zeppelin when I was younger. I followed them around. I was going to marry Timmy Page. Like, I get it. It's cool. I was like, no, stop right
You don't
now.
understand.
This is not okay. And she was just like, do the girls know that you're here? And I was like, no, I do not want them to think I'm insane. And she was like, oh, okay, I get it. Well, I'll do it for you. Hold on. And I was like,
Oh my God.
so she like took me back to where they were just like having lunch during a break. And I was wearing a fucking red sweatsuit from the filming. And I think she told Tegan, you know, that this is the girl interviewed you in a laundromat, which I felt like was fairly memorable. You know, so she remembered me, I think. Sara didn't remember me. She pretended like she remembered me. I was like, you don't remember me. It's fine. Like,
yeah, the random person.
but she acted like she did. And I was like, you don't have to do that. It's
Yeah.
fine. And I had just listened to some banter about them talking about paying taxes for the first time, like making money as a band. And so that's what I talked about, taxes. That was the first thing that came to my brain. And so that was what we talked about. Yep, that's what happened. And I did get to stay in
Oh my
Being There.
God.
See, so sometimes
director-
you need to take some chances.
Yeah,
Yes,
the director
definitely.
was just like, I have you on my list as girl from Atlanta for being the extra scenes. I was like, thank you. Like, so I'm like down in the boiler room for those weird scenes. Like, and I think I posted once where I asked Emmy, she was there, and I was like, what is this about? Like, what's with these colors? Because they just kept having us change colors all day. And she was like, oh, well, the beginning of it's going to be you're all in white, and it's like the beginning of a relationship where everything's like new and fresh and pure. And she's like, and then one person will be dressed in black, and it's like that first thing that kind of gets under your skin and just like spreads and like poisons a relationship. She's like, and so it'll go to you all in gray, and then like a week after that,
But, like, this is about their relationship between Sara and Emmy, and that was like, oh my God, she's just
a few weeks after that was when it like kind of became known that they were breaking up, and I was just like, fuck, I can't believe
God.
I
And they
asked
just
her
did that video.
I'm like, you just like art directed a video about the collapse
Your
of your
breakup.
relationship.
Yeah.
Damn.
Cool. I was just like, oh my God, I felt so terrible that I asked about it. But I mean, she didn't seem to mind explaining it, but I was still just like, oh great. So
Oh, this is so
it was an adventure.
yeah.
I feel like I have many stories. I could talk forever.
Oh yeah, it's fine. We're enjoying this actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've gotten to like do so many cool things and just see so much cool stuff and meet cool people and like just have so many weird experiences with them and you know because of them, and it's pretty cool, you know. Like once we were in New York City and to see a show, and it was like 4 a.m. and we all just had planes, you know, flights and stuff the next morning, so we didn't get a hotel. We just went and chilled at the McDonald's in Times Square. And I like left and got my train, and then Tegan came in at like 4 a.m. and ordered chicken McNuggets, and all my friends that were there were just like, okay, and
Just
she was
waiting.
like, hey, what are you guys doing here? You know, like, and I was like, how fucking random. Like, who let her out at the McDonald's at Times Square at 4 a.m. by herself?
Oh my gosh.
Tegan.
Random crazy stories. But,
I Do you wish you've seen any of the shows before? So just like in the If It Was You era?
Oh God, I really wish I did. I especially wish that I had been at the one, and maybe no, this was during whenever they did that show where they recorded This Is Everything, that is the live version that they released.
Mm.
I wish I would like at the live from the Phoenix. Maybe that was during So Jealous.
It was during So Jealous.
Yeah,
I thought for
Phoenix, yeah.
sure I thought for sure you were there.
I wasn't at that one, and I wish I had been at that one.
Mm.
I would have loved to have been. You know what's funny is I have a friend who lives in Winnipeg, and she has friends in Calgary, and so she actually would go to Calgary in the late 90s, and she saw them play, you know, a number of times.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, I wish I would have been there. I wish I could have seen some of those shows. And she was like, no, you don't. She was like, I might not have been a fan. She was like, it was rough. It was
Oh,
rough.
no.
They got so much better.
Okay.
And I think
Okay.
they were just, you know, we're still like learning, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
They didn't have a band. They didn't have a band as well.
They
So
didn't have any,
and they
yeah.
often talk about that. They usually kind of say like,
And they
you
were
know,
like playing in bars with no one paying
Yeah.
attention to them, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
True,
one of
yeah.
my favorite bootlegs is from the Yellowknife Festival in 2000. It was one of the first bootlegs of theirs I heard. And I love it because it's like they think no one's paying attention to them, and so they're just going off about like whatever's in their brain. And like
oh yeah.
I listened
That's
to that,
funny.
and that was one of the ones that also made me like want to see them live more.
Mhm.
So whenever they were supposed to play in Yellowknife in 2020, I wanted to go so bad because I was like, that was the first bootleg of theirs I ever had was in Yellowknife. And I was like, that would be so cool to go to somewhere in Canada I haven't been, like you know, it's not a province, but like territory I've never been. So I hope they will do it someday since that got canceled.
Go back there, yeah.
They're also supposed to go to Montana, and I was gonna go to fucking Montana. I was like, hell yeah, state I haven't been to, because I love when they play in a state that I haven't seen them in yet. I have
Yeah.
my map, and I just desperately want to fill in the states I haven't been to.
I want to ask you also, what's your talking about the present shows or like shows you've seen? Do you have like a distinctive favorite show you remember very well?
I think one that always comes to mind as one of my favorites is in 2010, and they kind of experimented with doing like an evening with Tegan and Sara, and it was at the Music Hall of Williamsburg in Brooklyn, and that was like the only time I've ever seen them attempt to take requests. And so they played This Is Everything. I had never heard them play that live, and I was like beside myself. I heard them sound checking it. I was losing my mind. And then
Oh my
like,
God.
while they were playing it, one of the security was trying to get me to stop filming, and I was like, nope, nope.
I need to film
No,
this.
no, I absolutely refuse. No, you're not ruining this for me. Absolutely not. And someone asked for them to play Dancing in the Dark, you know, since they'd covered it
Oh
before.
Yeah.
yeah, so good.
Sara tries a couple times to play it, and she like can't get the chords right, so she just drops her guitar and just starts singing it.
Yeah.
At one point, they played, what else did they play? They played Light Up. Someone yelled for Light Up, and
My
Sara
favorite,
played.
my favorite, my favorite.
And so I
Yeah.
think that's the only time that they've ever played that one live. So it was just that one really sticks out to me because of all of those things. And then later it was later that year I was in Australia seeing them, and it's in Brisbane, I think, and someone was yelling for This Is Everything, and Tegan was like, oh, we don't remember it, you know, and the guys in the band were like, yeah, we can play it, and they just started playing, and like each, you know, of them joined in, and then I was like, this is fucking magic, like right
Wow.
here.
Yeah.
So things like that really stick out to me. The shows where like, you know, Tegan or Sara like lost their voice and couldn't sing, like one of those happened recently. You know, I think shows where something different happens like that really stick out to me. The show after the 2016 election,
I remember this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like kept thinking like, you know, because they were coming out to like lights and music and everything, but it was just dark, and they just came out in dark with guitars and played Dark Come Soon, and they just kept stopping and being like, this is so hard, you guys, like, and like Tegan cried through like Back in Your Head, and I kept being like, they should dedicate, like Hang On to the Night to everybody. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
a song that kind of fits this.
They did, I
Yeah.
think, right?
No, they started playing it, and that's where Sarah got choked up and just
Yeah,
stopped
I
singing.
remember this.
She
Yeah.
tried to sing, and I felt like I
God.
should not be filming it. I felt like I shouldn't be filming her crying, but I also felt like it was important and that it would
Yes, for
mean
sure.
Yeah.
people because people felt so bad. So it was hard to keep filming because I felt like I should stop filming, but I also felt like
I remember watching the video as I was
Yeah.
newly a teacher.
Yeah, for the fans who weren't there, it was really important for them to see,
Yeah, because I
actually
remember watching the
happened.
video at 7 in the morning. You uploaded it
Yeah.
because it was very late, and I just like I got to my class, and before class began, so I watched it and I started to cry. And I taught grade 6 first, and they were like, "What's wrong? What happened?" I was like,
You're like
crying.
everything is wrong.
So I remember this
Mhm.
show distinctively.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think it was very cathartic for everyone.
it was, yeah. The Love You to Death shows were very, very, I don't know, special. Even though Love You to Death is like my least favorite album, like they're very special. I don't
She
know
loves
why.
saying that.
I
That's
love
fair.
saying that. I always say it. I have my
Yeah,
reasons.
I think, and just people do ask me why I like started uploading tours and why I kept
Yeah, this
doing
is
it.
the question that I want to,
Yeah,
ask
and
you.
part of it was because I started hearing from people about how it meant a lot to them to be able to see it because like they were like too young to go to the show or too far, it was too far away, or they, were like you from a country where they couldn't go to
Yeah.
a show, or they couldn't afford it even if they were close by, or if they were too closeted and they were afraid that going to a show
Yeah.
would give them away. And I just started hearing from all those people, and it just really meant a lot to me. And so I, at some point it just became about doing it, for the fans and feeling like I was doing something that meant something to people. And I feel like I grew up kind of like really thriving on positive feedback from like adults. I think you do that as a kid, and I really did
Yeah.
that as a kid. And I feel like when you get out of school that you don't really have any source of that from people.
It's true.
Like you don't
That's true,
you don't get
especially in
that
workplace. Yeah.
in workplace, everybody's like, if you do what you're supposed to do, then no one says anything, and you only hear about it when
Yeah.
you like put something up. And so like I think, kind of getting that kind of feedback, it really like fed something for me that I wasn't getting anywhere else. And that like you stop getting when you get out of school, where you like get awards and you get good grades and you have something to like, measure yourself by and feel good about and get, positive adult feedback and things like that. And I felt like I really, when I got out of school, I kind of just needed that from somewhere. And I felt like getting that from the fandom, it really meant a lot to me. And it felt like a lot of, I just really fed off of that kind of like positive energy from people. It gave me a sense of like purpose because I went to law school because I wanted to do something that like meant something to people and that made people's lives better. But like a lot of times as a lawyer, you don't in your day-to-day work always feel that. Like you feel like you're pushing a lot of paper around
Yeah.
and you're not always helping someone. Sometimes it's just like the case doesn't work out. It's not a good case. There's nothing you can do. The person has kind of lied to you and, they have a terrible case to begin with. And so it's really hard to get much positive feedback. And so like, yeah, that really became a big part of why I did it. And I felt like, everyone I could deliver the shows to got something from it, and I got something back from them for doing it. So it just felt like a really symbiotic relationship where,
Yeah.
we just
Because
all
you do
got
it for
something from it.
free, yeah, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I just want YouTube to let me leave the videos up.
Oh, I
So,
remember
Yeah.
when they were deleted. Oh God, that was the worst
Yeah.
time ever. I
it
remember how
was
you
it was
suffered.
terrible. It was
Yeah.
it was terrible, and it was Hanson that did it, which was painful because
Yeah.
they
I
were my
remember
Oh
that.
no, I didn't know
Yeah,
they
that.
were
yeah.
my first
It's
love.
very distinctive
Yeah.
because it was like chaotic for us, like on Twitter. And yeah.
It was hard because I was just like, it was a big part of my identity. And I was just like, who
Yeah.
am I without my YouTube channel? Without, and I've spent so much of my life putting,
Building
effort
this
into
catalog.
it,
Yeah.
building this, yeah, like, and
Yeah.
just like the travel and the filming and like what goes into it. Cause it's not just like you know, and there's always been fans who, you know, don't love me, and they're like, any asshole can hold a camera, and I'm like, yeah, but you have to get the camera, you have to get the gear, you have to wait in line, you have to get the spot, you have to deal with security guards telling you you can't film, and then you have a bad angle, and then people are pushing you because they're drunk, you know, and then you're too close to the speakers and you're worried that the sound is bad, and you know the lighting isn't great, there's too much fog, you can't see anything, like a
And you're
lot
not
harder
really
to
watching the
do it.
show, you're just filming the show, basically.
Yeah, well, if I'm in a good spot and nobody's bothering me, I'm spending the whole time being like, God, this looks gorgeous, this is going to be so good, and I'm like so
Yeah.
excited about it. But like if something is going wrong, like there's a speaker right in front of me, I spend the whole show thinking, fuck this goddamn motherfucking speaker, like I'm just so angry the
It's
whole
easy for
time.
people to say like it's easy to just hold a camera. It's not just like that.
It's not, and I
Yeah.
like it when people try to do it and they're like, oh, this was harder than I thought, because like my arms start shaking 2 minutes into it, and then I'm just like all over the place, and like I'm singing and dancing and jumping around, and this is gonna look terrible. And I'm like, yeah, it's, you know, it's not the hardest thing ever, but it's not nothing. So
But you know, Jamie, like without having this, like these videos on YouTube, I don't think I would have been the fan that I am today, because like that's
Mhm.
what got me attached to Tegan and Sarah, all these banters. It's
And
like
it's a huge
when I
part
think of
part of
Tegan and Sarah, I think
this
of banters.
fandom.
And
Yeah.
banters,
Yeah.
I think of Jamie. So
oh
yeah, so it's like it's a big
yeah.
part of Tegan and Sarah. So
Whenever
yeah.
I love capturing something. I think part of why I started doing it was because it's just like when something happens that's really special, whether it's really funny or really awful or really, you know, just special, like it just feels really wrong for it to just disappear, to have existed for a
Yeah.
second and then be gone. It just feels
Never
like a
again.
loss. Yeah, it
Mhm.
feels like a loss to the universe. And I was just like, I want these things to not end. And for me, like, you know, it's hard when a show ends. You feel sad. It's a bummer, especially when you hit the end of a
Mhm.
tour. It's like post-concert depression. And for me, like the
Oh.
show ending was like the beginning of my work. My work has just begun.
Yeah.
Like now I'm gonna go and like upload stuff and get people's feedback and comments, and you know, so it's like it's over, but I have a way to keep it going for me. And that helped me deal with like, you know, being bummed about the end of the show.
True.
Have you
Yeah.
seen the Glasgow show? This is like very, like I just thought about it.
The one like in
The
2008.
infamous. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was not there.
Oh God.
You know, I'm bummed I wasn't there. I know that my friend Lizzie was there. She's marching stars. And I was always like, I'm like, man, I can't believe that she was there. I wasn't there. There's definitely ones I wish I would have been there for, and that's one of them. So, but I think I
Yeah.
would have felt the same thing. Like, should I be filming this right now? Like,
Yeah, because it was
Yeah.
intense.
and I think she's taken some of it down because she feels the same way. Like, is this something that shouldn't be
Yeah.
there, you know? So that's a little
Yeah.
hard sometimes to figure out where the line is. But you know, in the end, it's just like you love these musicians and you want to respect them, and
That's
you know,
true.
do what you feel is respectful for them. And you know, the show after the election, like I don't think that's something they mind being out
No,
there.
no, I don't think so.
Being
No.
shared. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because I feel like it was an important turning point for them
Yeah.
too.
Mhm.
I
They
think I
they made
saw,
they started the foundation and all of that
yeah,
after or
exactly. And I
during that
asked,
time.
someone asked me, I saw like, I think one of the questions was if that I didn't like Heartthrob and did I ever come around to the album. The answer is no. I still hate it. I have a trauma response to every song on there.
Oh man.
I really, I felt like it was so commercial and so far removed from the authenticity that I really loved about them, that it really was a hard time for me to be a fan, because it didn't feel like it related to the things I loved about them the most. And
Right.
it's hard because that's when they toured the most. So looking at the
Yeah.
most
Like,
shows
how was it for
that
you to go to these concerts though?
it was hard. It was very emotionally challenging, you know, but I still wanted to be there. Like, I feel like, you know, when you're a sports fan and your team is like losing, like if you're a real fan, like you still go to the games, you go through that pain anyway, because you really believe in, you know, this group of people. And I really felt strongly that someday they would find their way back to what I felt was authentic for them, that were the things I really loved about them, you know, that came out through like So Jealous and The Con and Sainthood, that really felt raw and painful and authentic, and not so polished and cleaned up and,
Yeah.
presented.
Well, how do you
And I
feel about
really-
Love You to Death? Because that's my
I
problem
felt
with
like it
Love You
was
to Death.
Heartthrob Part 2. I
No, I
expected it to
Heartthrob, I
be,
love it. I love it because it's when I became a fan, and
yeah. I
I
feel
was
like they
into
are
pop
very
music. I love They Say
similar.
is the only song that I don't like, but Love You to Death, I have a
God, that's,
problem with it. I don't know why. Like, I love some songs, but
don't ask me about that song. Yeah, I felt like they got such success through Heartthrob that the next album
yeah,
was going to be very similar. And I feel like they do albums kind of in pairs. And so
yeah,
it's like a perfect,
Oh,
yeah. They do that.
know,
They do that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so I was like,
and
I knew that I hated Heartthrob. I knew that the next album was going to be in the same vein that
what about
Heartthrob.
Crybaby? Because it's my favorite. It's If It
Yeah.
Was You and
And
Crybaby are my favorite.
after Heartthrob and I Love You to Death, I was just like, they could do anything as long as it is something else. I do not care what, in any direction, as long as it's something that is authentic to them, And so I really didn't expect them to go that route they went with High School, which was in the whole opposite direction, I feel,
Yeah.
commercially, because it was something that was really a passion project and was not about, being commercially
Money.
successful.
Yeah,
It was
it's
not
you know
about
how
that.
every artist has their experimental album that was him,
Yeah.
just like you.
Yeah, and I'm sad we never got that full
Oh
tour
my
of that,
God, yeah.
because I really wanted to hear some of those songs live.
Exactly.
I wanted to be able to record some of those
I
songs
think
live.
I think eventually they might maybe tour that
Hope
album because
so.
they have to. They have to eventually. Like
Maybe when they run out of ideas, they
like
might.
this, if it was you tour that they're doing, do it again. But yeah, I'm just like you, just a few dates.
Are
I
you
don't know,
excited
something.
about that, by the way? Like the
Oh, I'm so
Tonight tour?
excited. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. I can't
Same.
believe
Like
they're
even
doing
if I don't
that.
see it, I'm so excited because it's like
Yeah.
the album that
I
changed
Yeah.
me.
I have really good seats for the very first show, and so I'm
Ooh,
very, very excited
nice.
Oh
about
my
it.
God.
Yeah,
I don't know
I
where
have
my
really
seats
good.
are. I just want to be there. Even if it's in the back, I don't care. But like,
Yeah, I mean, I know. It's like there's a difference between what is a good seat for your eyeballs and what is a good
yeah,
seat for a
For
camera.
filming, for sure.
And like
yeah,
your eyes can see just fine with heads in front of you, but a camera
yeah.
can't, because it's
No,
like down here,
exactly.
it's not
Yeah,
Yeah,
up here, and it has to go from one side to the other side. The
exactly.
person's head
Yeah.
in front of you has to go from here to here, and there's a neck in the way, and it's terrible, and it drives me up a wall. So I
yeah.
would rather be like on the far edges of the front row than like in the second row in the middle, because there's gonna be someone's fucking head and I'm gonna want to murder them the entire show.
Right.
Last
Yeah.
question before we go to the questions. Are you allowed to talk about the documentary or like,
So what you told me was that you were in line and they mic'd you guys
Yeah, so we were
when you were
outside of
talking or something, and then you show them your.
we were they did that show in DC that was kind of an acoustic show, and they said it was kind of like an experiment for like what they wanted to do in the future. And there were a few other fan friends of mine who had been fans for a long time, and that Tegan and Sara know, that came for that show. And so they filmed all of us outside in line talking about like how we got into going to shows and being fans. And they like mic'd us for the concert. And so I kind of forgot there was a microphone on me, so I'm a little nervous about what I said. I have no idea what I said. I have absolutely no clue. So I'm hoping they don't really use anything from that, because I'm just like, what were we even talking about? I do not know. Like, oh God. I wish we got to approve it before they use it, but I don't think we do. And yeah, I also they filmed some of my collection of my just merch and things I have.
Mhm.
Talking about the changes in shows from era to era, I have a sign that says like, warning, strobe lights will be used in this performance. And it was for the Con tour in 2008, where it was the first set of shows where they had a light show. And so we were like,
Right.
strobe, what's happening? Like, what are they becoming? It was just the first time they had a light show, and it was really cool. Plus my pictures from that era were just like phenomenal because the lighting was so good. So
Yeah, that's something about touring as well, that the evolution. And So Jealous, they didn't have that, and then they had it for the con. You said the first show
it was
that they had lighting was for the con.
it wasn't until 2008, so it was like the
Mhm.
last con tour that they did. I remember like the first con tours, they were very basic.
Yeah.
There was where it was like it was like in a youth hostel, and it had a performance space room, and it was just like a big flat room with the stage and only had white lights. And there was one part where Tegan was like, "You guys are really quiet," and like someone yelled, "There's no bar," and she was like, "There's no bar." Okay. Like, yeah, when everyone is just sober and paying attention and making Tegan and Sarah nervous because no one's talking. So yeah.
So we got some questions from listeners.
Yeah.
And people, Jamie also posted on her Twitter, so there might be people who haven't listened. So if it's the first time you're listening, thank you. We're gonna do the questions now. The first question is
most importantly is
me.
that I did my questions. Like I asked my questions before everyone else. So yeah. Yeah, come on.
So
This
I
is
think
from you. So read
you
it.
you kind of already answered my question actually, because I was wondering if because what was the first video you posted on YouTube? Was it Tegan and Sarah? Or did you do it for like the other artists as well? And then it just
Hanson, right?
Tegan and Sarah is just like most of them.
So Tegan and Sarah were the first band that I posted videos of, because during Hanson days I had a film camera, so I had just film pictures, but never video. They weren't the first video I posted, but they were the first concert video I posted. I think the first video was the lesbian bar in Atlanta was being torn down at the time, and so all the lesbians decided we were going to tear it down ourselves before it closed. And so that was my first video, was everybody just completely trashing
Oh my
the bar
God.
at my sister's room in Atlanta, like tearing down out windows, smashing furniture. It was wild, spray painting the entire place. Like the owners were like, "Go for it." It's being demolished. Take it out. So that was my first video. But then Tegan and Sarah were the first band that I started filming and started posting. Yeah. I posted other artists, but they will always be my favorite to film. So yeah.
So you started posting Tegan and Sarah, and then how long after did you start posting other artists too, or was it just like kind of at the same time?
I think soon after. Definitely not until 2008 when I got my second camera and started to get a larger memory cards, because memory cards used to be
that's true
expensive. So like a 500 megabyte memory card was pricey at the time.
Yeah.
Like it
makes
the
sense.
prices dropped so much, but at the time I was like a law student and I couldn't afford more. But in 2008 I bought a better camera. I didn't know it was going to be better. I was really lucked out. I just picked one.
That's good.
And I got bigger memory cards and more batteries, and that's when I started filming the bands that like opened for Tegan and Sarah. For me, it like I need repetition of music before it really grows on me. I don't really like hearing new stuff unless it's
same.
I want to see the people behind it. A lot of bands that opened for Tegan and Sarah. I really got into Paramore because Tegan and Sarah opened for Paramore in 2010. Yeah. And so I started following Paramore, and then, you know, the bands that would open for Paramore, I would film, and it just branched out, you know, from there, into like the universe of other bands that they know.
Yeah.
And, I've gotten into. So yeah, some of my other favorites are, you know, Churches. Paris is one of my new favorite ones.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Cool.
So,
I think Moon's questions was answered. It says, "Hey Jamie, thank you for your hard work and dedication for all things Tegan and Sarah. I would like to know how many shows have you attended?" So we answered this previously in the episode.
Also, what's it like to meet them?
Yeah.
Well, I can answer that one. Everyone always asks me like if they're as nice as they seem, and they are definitely, I mean, they're as nice as they seem. They're genuinely nice, good people. And like, even when I've run into them and they've been in bad moods for like whatever reason, like once it was at the airport, like the day before a show and it was early, or if they were upset about something, like there were times I could tell that it was not a good time to talk to them, but they never took it out on me or treated me any differently. They are always like, you know, "Hey, how's it going? How are you doing? Not doing so good over here," you know, and that means a lot, because it's easy, I think, to take it out on someone whenever you're not having a great time and something's convenient.
I don't think I've heard one story of someone saying like they weren't nice to me.
Remember that story on your TikTok? It was one of the comments, like I don't know.
Someone commented on the post saying these people are liars.
Yeah, I know. It was so funny.
The only
mean,
the only
maybe
story
some-
that is bad was told by Tegan that she refused to take a picture with someone who was complaining because they were waiting. That's the only story I know, and it
Yeah.
was by Tegan.
Yeah,
It wasn't
and
even
I
the
actually
fan.
ran into Tegan right after that. She was like standing by their bus, like chain smoking like a cigarette with like their
Yeah.
crew, their guitar tech Al at the time. And I just went up and said hello, and she was clearly so agitated and upset. And I was like, okay, not a good time. Talk to you later. And then the next day they told that story, and I was like, oh, that I
Makes
walked
sense.
right after that. Great. I'm glad I just left. It was for the best.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Dave
first
is
concert.
asking, what was the worst TNS concert you've attended and why? Also, Go Rain. I don't know what's Go Rain.
Do you know what
No,
that means? Rain? I don't know.
I do. Dave
Okay.
is a friend from Seattle, and I
Oh,
was
cool.
a fan of the Seattle Rain, and so I saw him a lot last year going to Rain games. He was in. I met him in the Back in Your Head video because we were
Cool.
friends on LiveJournal. But I think the worst, like, I don't really, there's not really a worst concert, mainly because the ones they think would be the worst were ones I thought were the best, the ones where stuff went wrong. Like, I always thought those were special because it shows how good they are at getting out of bad
Yeah.
situations and how good they are at
Yeah.
trying to make a good experience for everyone, no matter what. I feel like the ones that I wouldn't even call them bad, but there's just ones that just aren't memorable. Like, I felt like a lot of them, the time they were touring for Heartthrob, they kind of were on a script.
Yeah.
They had, background vocals that were playing, they had backup music that was playing, and so like everything was very tightly scripted. And they had, like, I got set lists from the time where it says talk at certain times, and I'm just like, man, that's a bummer. Like, that's, and they didn't have a chance to even say anything because they couldn't stop the background stuff that was playing. So like
Right.
that was, so I think the ones that I didn't love were ones that just weren't memorable. Like, nothing happened that was interesting. Like, that was
The
a show.
ones that I kind of don't like, not don't like, but like they felt off to me were the ones during I'm not sure if it's Heartthrob or Love You to Death. It was in between. Tegan had the microbangs, I think, and she was just off all the time, and she was so quiet.
Yeah. Also, there
And
was like
Sarah
this
didn't
stretch.
talk a lot. So
Yeah, there was a stretch at the beginning of Heartthrob too, where I felt like Heartthrob was kind of, I felt like their voices were manipulated in the album to an extent that like singing it live wasn't natural. And so there was
Out
a
of
whole
tune.
stretch where Tegan was so out of tune. And I was like, oh boy, oh, rough times. So,
yeah.
go Rain, Dave. I'll rain forever.
TR is asking, you have traveled so much, how many PTO hours? What is it?
Paid time off.
Paid time off hours do you have?
Well, I have like at this point I have worked up to like 4 weeks a year of leave, which is I use most of it to visit my wife in Denmark,
Mhm.
and vice versa when she comes here. Most of the shows and the recording I did were when I was starting new jobs where I had maybe like 10 days off a year to use. And so I really rationed them and
Right.
like I did everything I could to make it work. So,
Like for
I
Heartthrob, you went to 60 concerts.
know, and
How?
that is completely insane. But I'm thinking of like there was one time where they played 2 shows 2 nights in a row in New York. And so I like left my office early and I left the lights on and the door open to make it look like I'd just gone to get coffee or something. And I went and I got on a train or
Oh,
the bus and I
wow.
went
I
to
would
New
do
York.
that.
And I got to New York like halfway through the opener and I went to the show and then I got a 1 a.m. bus back and went right back to my office at like 6 in the morning and I slept under my desk for a few hours and then I put on the same clothes I'd had on the day
Wow.
before and I like opened my door and pretended I had just not just been there the whole time under my
Yeah.
desk. And then I did the same thing that night. I did it again and went back to the next show. Like I really did some crazy shit that involved sleeping not very much at all.
Yeah. So you wouldn't lose like
Yeah.
work
So I
days.
wouldn't use my leave. Like I had one where my friend in Wisconsin was trying to talk me into going to a show in Wisconsin. And he was like, they're doing a radio show tomorrow. Only 10 people can go. And I was like, did you get tickets? And he's like, we got you a ticket. And I was like, shit.
Now you have
And
to
he
go.
was like, he was like, yeah, so if you, can make it tonight, you can stay at my house. And I was like, oh my God. And I went online and I booked a flight. I booked a rental car. I told my boss I had a migraine and I like ran to the airport because it's like right on the metro line from where I was working. And like within an hour, I was on a plane.
Wow.
And I was like, I've lost my mind. I showed up in my work clothes with my like work bag, like halfway through Ann Horse's set. And like my friend had to lend me clothes.
Hmm.
My God.
Amazing.
So I've just done a lot of crazy stuff. Like now I have a little more leeway to actually like take
Yeah.
leave, but I try to go to stuff on weekends, which made this last year hard
Yeah.
because it's too much on weekends. Times where there's like 3 shows, 3 days in a row, you can get the most out of it.
Yeah.
It's just all
Yeah.
very specific. So yeah.
This question is from Twitter. Elrond, is that how you would say that? Elrond Hubbard.
Yeah.
You answered this already too.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, she wasn't too keen on Heartthrob. Did she ever come around? I
Nope.
may be mistaken. Apologies.
No,
That was
it's that
answered
one.
already. And my question was also answered. Like, what motivated you to keep going, even though it wasn't like your favorite?
Yeah.
Jess asked, how did you first discover Tegan and Sarah, and what motivate you to travel to so many shows? That was also answered already. Julia asked, you're famous
I
for
think,
your
wait,
red
Debbie, I
dress.
skipped a question. I skipped this Passed down heartbreak asked, tell us about the
Oh,
friends
tell
and
us about the
relationships you've
friends.
built within the Tegan and Sarah community.
Yeah, sure. I've met some of my best friends like through touring. Initially just through like sitting in line and waiting around, and then you're like, are you going to the one tomorrow? Are you, I remember going to one show in Brooklyn, and I was sitting next to this girl and we were talking, and I was just like, I really want to go to the show tomorrow in Philadelphia, but I don't have any way to get there. And she was like, well, I really want to go, but like, I don't have a ticket. And I was like, I have a ticket if you have a car. And she's like, I have a car. And she's like, you can
There
come
you
stay
go.
on my couch and then we could just leave in the morning. And I was like, okay, that totally works. She's like, I live on Staten Island, so we can just go after the show. And I was like, okay, deal. And then she was like, my name's Steph. Hello. I was like, Jamie. And like,
Oh, that's
we still
crazy.
stay in touch and everything. And so just so many stories like that. I think I trust strangers maybe more than I should, but I feel like you make a lot of friends that way. Once I was in Boston and I'd come with a suitcase, and I just tweeted and was like, does anyone have a hotel room or a car where I could put my suitcase? And
I think I remember this.
yeah, my friend Seal was just like, yeah, I have a hotel room. And then she was like, I swear I'm not creepy. And I was like, okay. And I went and met her and she's like, do you want to come up to my room? She's like, I didn't mean that in a creepy way. I'm not creepy, I swear. And I'm like, dude, I'm the one that asked. Like, I asked if you had a hotel room. And she's one of my best friends. Now we've been on 4 cruises together and everything. So like my wife, I met through my YouTube channel. She started messaging me about, my videos, and we started talking. So it's like some of my best friends I've met through doing all of this, and that's definitely worth it. Even though not all of them go to the shows anymore, there's still shows where people will all show up and we'll take pictures because we're like the crew is back together. So yeah.
Aw. Yeah.
Once
Perfect.
Tegan and Sarah called us the regulars, they were like, yeah, it's like here where everybody
They're
knows
always
your
there.
name. Yeah, the regulars.
People ask me when I met you, they were like, what do Tegan and Sarah feel like if Jamie's not there? Like, isn't that weird for them to not have you there? And I'm like,
I wondered
probably.
that too. I should ask them that sometimes. I was like, I want to be like, if I didn't show up at shows for a while, would you worry about me? Would you
Yeah.
be
Like, where is she?
okay?
Is she okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll ask them sometime maybe.
All right. Julia's question is, you're famous for your red dress at the Vancouver '09 show. Tell us about it. What a dress.
So I've heard random things in the fandom about this whole thing.
Famous red dress. You wore a dress to
What
the
is the
concert?
red dress?
Okay, so what had happened was Tegan and Sarah were playing in a theater before the Vancouver. It was like a show that was like an opener for the Vancouver Olympics. And they were playing in a theater. And they always talked about how whenever they play in a theater, they'd always expect people to be all dressed up like they were going to the theater. And so me and all of the other Tegan and Sarah people that traveled a lot for shows and were going to that show, we all decided we were going to dress up as if we were going to the theater. So that way, whenever they saw all of us dressed up like we were going to the theater, it would be funny.
That's fun.
Because they always joke about. So I wore this
I
like
do
red
that.
dress.
I would do that.
Yeah, and so we have a picture of like the whole group of us, and people are in like suits and ties, and everything. I'm probably the only one that wore a dress because lesbians, but it was fun. And then we all went out afterwards to the lesbian bar in Vancouver, and Tegan ended up being there, and so that was really just kind of crazy. And we were like all weirdly dressed up,
So you're at a bar wearing like fancy
Yeah.
clothes, and Tegan is there.
Yep.
Oh
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, because it was only one show. They weren't doing a whole tour. It was like one
Mhm.
of the only shows they did around that time. And so yeah, they weren't doing any other shows. So they just, Tegan just went out after the show.
Oh my God. I would die, I
So-
think.
That's dying. That's dead. That's over.
So yeah, I mean that was
Um,
pretty much it. Like
Yeah.
I think there was like weird rumors that I had like dressed up to try to like seduce Tegan and I was stalking her. and
What?
What
the
the-
bar. Yeah. There, like I said, there's always been people who didn't like me, and
Jesus.
that was kind of I think a thing that went around that time, because we took pictures of us, at the bar and
Mhm.
all of our dressy clothes and everything. So
Wait,
that
so you
was-
have pictures with Tegan wearing red dress?
no, we
Oh,
just pictures of us, not with Tegan.
Okay,
so
got it.
We decided to
Got
just
it.
leave her be and not ask for pictures and stuff.
There's another question from Julia. You've been to many Tegan and Sara events. Oh, I think you mentioned this already.
Mm-hmm.
That it include playing shows.
Wow.
Yeah.
What one stood out to you, and why? And was one of them the time Heather dropped? Julia's giving you like two specific questions.
What? I
Yes,
don't
I know.
understand what's going on.
Dropped
Who's Heather?
Ally.
Who's Allie?
So
in the
Heather and
parking lot?
Allie were friends of me and Julia. And so she's talking about the Get Along screenings in 2011. And I would say that one of those really did stand out to me, the very first one, because Tegan and Sara were like, we're going to watch the show. We're going to watch it with you, and then we'll talk and answer questions. And at the end of the first one, they had just both been like sitting there drinking wine and watching the show. And they were both like, I think a little tipsy and very upset about having seen themselves so big. And like Sara was just like, okay, so what I have learned from this hour and a half is that I need to get my teeth fixed, and I need to spend next year having voice lessons.
I remember this.
And they were both like so traumatized. They were like, okay, we're not going to sit through this anymore, because we like literally cannot. So they came out for the next Q&A, like they did a late show. They didn't sit there and watch it, but I think they just spent the whole time drinking and they were just like loopy, and it was hilarious.
That's so funny.
yeah, that one does stand out.
Nice.
So Franklin asked,
It's Anne's
Oh.
question. Yeah,
sorry, you just asked the questions. I keep skipping them.
it's fine. Clearly, this is a passion project, but to what extent did you also treat it like a job? I think at the time we all just thought you were just passionate, but now I realize you were also being entrepreneuring. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it was too entrepreneuring, because it's not something I've ever been able to like make money off of. I can't monetize my videos on YouTube because I don't own the copyrights to the materials.
Mm.
So, the labels that the artists release the music on, they monetize my videos, and they make the money off of the ads, which is fine. I just want the right to like leave them there and not have the labels bug me about it. So I'm fine with it. I did always kind of wish that I could make it my job. I'm an attorney, and it's like a whole separate world from doing video and going to concerts. And I wish I knew how to make it a job, but I don't, and I've never figured it out. So I think it's just, also sometimes people are like, when something becomes a job, it loses the fun. It loses the
That's
Yeah,
true.
that's what I think about this podcast.
The
I feel like
podcast, yeah. I was gonna say that.
if we tried to make it like a work thing, I think I wouldn't want to do it
Because we
anymore.
did at the beginning, and it was so like it annoyed me. Like I took it too seriously, and I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, and I was like, was like a chore? But now I'm like having fun with it, and like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I think I treat it, I call it my like expensive, unpaid part-time second job.
Yeah.
So,
same.
yeah. but
It's your hobby.
Yeah.
You're allowed to have hobbies.
Yeah.
Like
It is
things
a
you're
hobby.
passionate about.
it's a weird hobby, but I feel like it's the most interesting part about me sometimes, is my weird
Mhm.
hobby. So, and then I meet other people that love to do it.
Oh,
that
yeah.
are people that love to do it, and it's fun.
It's about community as well.
Um,
Like this whole thing.
Yeah, it's like fun
Yeah.
going to other fandoms and finding the people who do similar things in like other
Yeah,
fandoms.
exactly. Like
And
that's what
really,
I
yeah.
wonder if there are people like that for other fandoms too.
Sometimes. I mean, it made me laugh when I started filming Paramore and people were like, who is this person? They're posting like the whole shows. This is really cool. And like there were some Tegan and Sara fans that were like, I guess we'll share her with you. And then that made me laugh so much. So, and like Paramore toured in the last fall in 2022. And I took the worst videos I've ever taken because I was in the last row of the whole place. It was the best seats I could get. It was such a small sold out show. And there were such terrible videos, and people were so excited that I posted them. And I was like, dude, these videos are
Because no
trash.
one else did, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like, these are the worst videos I've ever taken. I'm embarrassed to put these on YouTube. But people were just like, oh my God, she's back. And I was like, I'm really happy that you like these because they're so bad. So bad. Please don't judge me. So, yeah.
Right. Franklin is asking most expensive TNS item you own.
I bought their demo tapes on eBay over the years.
Ooh,
And
so
so
original, because I feel like they auctioned the tapes, but I feel like they were new. Like they re-recorded them. They weren't like original from the 90s.
I think
Is
they
yours
were.
original from
So
the 90s?
yeah, they are the original ones. They have their original phone number printed on them that if you call it doesn't go to anything anymore. It's like disconnected. And they like one of them signed. But yeah, I bought them in the probably mid 2000s, I guess. And so I have a red, an orange, and a yellow. And I think the audio from the orange demo hadn't been online before. And me and a friend, we actually split the cost of buying it, and we paid to get it like professionally ripped from the audio ripped from the cassette and made it
Amazing.
digitally. And we gave a copy of it to Sara because we were like, we didn't know if you like had a digital copy of it or if you wanted one, but we figured, we made some copies, so here you go. And she was like, "Oh, our mom has a ton of these in boxes in her basement." There were red, yellow, and orange ones. The orange ones were definitely the rarest. I only ever saw the one I bought come up on eBay. So I have a waterproof, fireproof safe, and that's what's in it. Passport, like my birth certificate,
and the tapes.
It's like, yeah,
Amazing.
those are special. So they're special.
All right. Madison is asking, do you find that you have a particular sister you relate to, maybe more so during different album cycles or eras, whether that be Tegan or Sara, in what aspect? What have they taught you, if anything, about sisterhood and twins you hadn't thought about before? Whose songwriting do you prefer and who do you relate to more?
This is
Wow.
like 5 questions in one.
yeah.
That's very many questions.
Madison, you could have
Yeah.
asked those separately.
That's very many. I would say, let's see. I think that, Tegan's the one I've always run into. I think just because she's a little more social. So there's a lot of events where like they're both at, but like Sara will bolt before she spends time with people. And so I always end up running into Tegan, I think, because she's just out and around more. So I feel like, we have a little bit more of a relationship because I've just seen her more from the time I interviewed her at the laundromat through now. Sara scared me at the beginning, in like 2000.
all of us.
Oh, I think you told me this.
Yeah, in like 2005, I like asked her, they were just in the venue after a concert, just like taking pictures and talking to fans. And I wanted a picture with both of them, but they were on different sides of the room. And so I was just like, hey, how am I supposed to get a picture with both of you if you're never in the same place? And Sara was just like, we don't photograph together. And then just stared at me and I was like, okay, bye. And I didn't talk to her for like 3 years because I was like, what was that?
Yeah, her humor is like pretty specific.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. And the fact that she didn't even be like kidding,
Flinch.
she just left it. She just left it hanging there. And I was like, okay, bye. Like
Sara.
the awkward times. But I think in terms of who I relate to more, I feel like I do relate to Sara more because like there was a show, I don't even remember when, but she was talking about how she's in a really good relationship and they are really compatible and everything, but she still believes that like everything is doomed to die. And I was like,
Oh God.
team.
Me.
But
I remember this. I remember this show.
yeah. And I was like, I also believe everything is doomed to die. So I feel like, I definitely have had a lot more conversations with poor Tegan, but I feel like personality wise, I too also believe all things are doomed to die, and I am not as much of an optimist. So I feel
Yeah.
like when Sarah gets into like her really dark like thoughts,
Yeah.
those are ones that I usually identify with the most. So yeah.
3 questions left. Yeah.
Okay. I
How
know
do you
the rest
feel
are
about
2 minutes away, so.
This
all
is
right,
from
Majo?
Maju.
Maju.
She's
Okay.
Brazilian and she sent the questions in Portuguese. I translated them.
Okay. How
Just
do you feel
FYI.
about having created one of the biggest historical and cultural legacies in the TNS fandom with your YouTube channel?
Yeah,
Legacy.
I'm extremely proud of it. Like I said, when my YouTube channel went down, I was just like, who am I without my YouTube channel, and like it it is something I'm very proud of. I've put in so much time and work into it, and I love the fact that it has provided so much for so many fans for so long. Like I don't think I ever could have expected when I started doing it, like how big it would become. I think at this point, I have over 250 of their shows online.
Mhm.
And I think my channel overall, I think I have over 8,000 videos. And so I really love it. I'm a civil rights attorney. I feel like this YouTube channel is as famous as I will ever be. It's really fun. It's fun to have people come up to me at shows and to like, tell me how they discovered Tegan and Sara and how they discovered my videos and like what the videos mean to them. And like I love hearing the stories. They make me so happy because like that's why I love doing it is for people who are like, you recorded my first show ever, you recorded the time that like they talked to me or I got to like, reach out and touch them or you filmed the time that this thing happened that I always go back to or those it just really means a lot to me and I love when people come up to me and say hi. Sometimes people message me and they're like, I saw you and I was too afraid to say hello, and I'm like, oh my god, okay, that's worse because if you were just there and not talking to me, you should just talk to me. I love it when people say hi because it's really fun. It's really fun for me, and it's fun for me whenever it shows. I do bring my parents to Tegan and Sara shows whenever they're like in Pittsburgh, and it's fun for me when people do that whenever my parents are there because then I'm like, look, see, it means something to people because my parents think I'm insane. It's really fun to have them see that it means something to real people,
Yeah.
that like
Yeah.
exist on the interwebs, but are actual people and who it means something to. And I love that they get to see that. So
Yeah. There was another
Jack is
question. There was
yeah.
another. I'm just gonna say that there was another question from Maju, but you already answered because it was like your
Yeah.
your history as a fan and everything.
Yeah. Jack is asking, do you ever get recognized by TNS fans outside of TNS functions?
I do. I get recognized, but it's mainly like recording other bands that are related. So, Paramore, Churches, Paris, like my hair is extremely long. So I think when people are standing behind me, they will recognize the hair and then me with a camera probably.
Oh
And
yeah.
especially in
Interesting.
DC, because I think people know that I live in DC. So I've definitely had people come up to me in DC and be like, "Are you Wojo?" Or like, "Are you the girl that does the videos?" Like
That's so
Oh.
cool.
actually Tegan and Sarah's mom asked me that once. Are you the girl that does the
Oh, interesting.
She didn't remember me, but she told me that whenever they tour that they don't call and they don't text. And so sometimes she would watch videos to see like what they were up
I
to.
bet.
I
Yeah.
was like, oh God,
Oh.
I should be careful about what I write. I'm like, one of these views is maybe their mom. She probably doesn't do that anymore, but at the time that was fun.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Last but not least, from Clau, is that how you pronounce it?
I think you would say Clow.
Okay. First of all, thank you for all the videos. Your videos were the only way I could see the concert since they have never come to Peru, and I could just travel to see them in 2017. My question would be, what's your favorite tour from all the TNS eras? Any experience you remember the most? I mean, experience you've already shared
Yeah,
that.
so many. But
Yeah.
I think my favorite tour from all the Tegan and Sara eras, There were two, and the first one is the 2008 con tour. So it's like they've been touring the con for a while, but it was when they had their late show. And that tour was really fun, I think, because they didn't have the same set list every night, and the set list had like 27 songs every night.
Wow.
And they played covers, they played B-sides, like they played 1 Second, they played Love Type Thing, they played Dancing in the Dark, they did the cover of Umbrella by Rihanna. They would play like I Won't Be Left like once and then be like,
Oh,
that
love
didn't
this
work out,
song.
and then they wouldn't do it again. It was just so cool having them do like just different things every night and just trying things and then just being like, that didn't work, let's not do that the next night. And I feel like the tour in 2007, when they started touring for the con in 2007, it was like when they'd really gotten big, I think. They were on like MTV for the first time and everything. And so I think they were a little like hesitant about things that they said and did on stage. Like they weren't very out, for instance. They were like, I took a friend to one of their shows in 2007, and Tegan kept saying, my partner and they and them. And my friend, you can hear her on the video go, why is she
I watched
playing
that. I
with
remember
pronoun
watching
game?
that video. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they were just really unsure about how they would be received as being out. And so I think by 2008 they were like, fuck it, and they just
Yeah.
went for it. And so that was when they really just kind of let it all loose. And so that tour, just like all the different songs, it was so cool. They played Give Chase. I mean, just that tour is just so
I
iconic.
love this. Yeah.
Yeah.
That tour was incredible, iconic. I am so glad that I like slept on many buses to like make it in. I did not sleep much during that month. They played 4 nights in a row in LA, which I hope they never do it again, because everyone was ready to beat the shit out of each other by the 4th night. Because it was the same people every night waiting in line, competing for the front row. Like nobody ate. Everyone had like sunstroke. It was just like,
oh shit.
By the 4th night, everyone was just a hot fucking mess, and it was awful. And I was like, please never do this again. This is terrible. Like people would leave during the encore to get in line for the next night. Like one day we were sitting in line and this girl came and sat by us, and we were like, oh, the line's back there. And she was like, no, I'm starting the line for tomorrow. And we were like, you want to come tonight? Like there's a show tonight and there's tickets, you can go. And she was like, no, I want to be first in line tomorrow. And we were like, holy shit.
Okay, that's the first time I hear this.
Yeah, like the sun was
That's crazy.
and she's like, I want to be first in line for tomorrow.
There you go.
Like we were like, damn, okay, all right. And like that level of madness, it was just, yeah.
So she stayed all night there?
She did, yeah. I mean, she was not alone. We all stayed all night, every night. We like dragged the blankets and pillows from our hotel.
Oh my God. Okay.
We were like sleeping on the sidewalk in Hollywood.
That's
Homeless
crazy.
people were like, what is wrong with you? Like people would come by constantly, like tourist buses would go by and like look at us and they'd point us out. Like it was wild. Yeah.
Whoa.
So that was my favorite tour. And then my second favorite tour was the spring of 2010 for Sainthood. And they toured with Steel Train and Holly Miranda. And I just all 3 of those bands, and every night was just like a delight.
A party.
All of them. And they would sing with each other. The only thing missing was Tegan and Sara bringing them on stage to sing with them. That would have like made it so perfect. But Tegan and Sara like had been touring Sainthood for at least for like, a while at that point, and they really had hit their stride, but like they were so into it. Like even shows where they didn't really talk very much, it really was just song to song to song. It was really just because they were like clicking and just like moving. And it was, even though they weren't talking, I was like just loving
good show.
They were just in such a groove, and it was so good. And just having them, and plus like that album, like they're finally like that album was a banger, and you're like, yes, I'm glad that you finally realize it. But just so they played in Portland in April of 2010. And that was the last show of that tour. And I had just gotten out of the hospital. I was hospitalized for migraines.
Whoa.
I was barely able to like sit up straight because I'd gotten several spinal taps, and like my whole back.
Oh my God.
So I was probably mental to fly to Portland and go to that show. But I'm so glad I did, because it was just like such a good. So if you want to watch a show where they're just like on it, like watch that one. It's so good.
Was that the last show of the tour of Sainthood ever?
They only
years.
started touring Sainthood in the end of 2009. So like
Yeah.
finishing in April of 2010. That doesn't
No,
seem
it probably wasn't the last one
Oh,
for. It
so that was
wasn't.
April. No, it wasn't. It was not. No.
Yeah.
yeah,
No.
it can't have been the end. So they
But
must
Just
have
a tour, probably.
during December 2010 is when they filmed the Get Along.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
They didn't tour Sainthood a lot though, because I was looking at the numbers.
Yeah. Numbers
And
are pretty low.
2010
Mhm.
is one of the
They
low
went to India in the
numbers.
summer in this 2007. They went to India. In July they went to India, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the
Oh, and
last.
they went back to Australia. They went to Australia
Yeah,
in May of
Australia.
2010.
Mm-mm-mm.
I saw them in May of
Yeah.
2010, and then I saw them in Australia in December of 2010, and that's when they played This Is Everything.
That's true.
So,
That's true. Australia.
there we go.
Yeah.
All right.
Before
I
we
need to
wrap this
get-
up, Debbie, can you take
Thank
a
you so
screenshot
much
of
for
us?
coming. Oh yes,
Yeah.
just smile. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you,
I hope
Jamie.
that people who listened enjoyed.
Yeah. For sure. I'm
Follow
happy
us.
to come back
Do you
anytime.
want to share your socials? Everyone knows it, but
Oh, yeah, I made a business card once, but at some point I was like, this is unnecessary. Everyone knows me. You know where to find me. That's
Yeah.
what I do now.
and the podcast is Wanna Talk TNS Pod now on Instagram as well and Twitter. And we have a link tree where you can find where you can listen. So
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you.
Thank you guys. It
And
was really good to talk to you.
it was, yes.
it was really
Anytime.
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's actually my favorite episode. I
Yay.
like to hear these stories.
I
Yeah.
have so many. I'd be happy to come back sometime
Oh,
if you.
of course. We
Oh,
should do one just for
maybe.
stories or something.
Maybe
Just a
after
story.
like the Not Tonight tour, like if I don't make it,
Yes, let's
tell
do
us
it.
stories about
Let's
that.
do it
I would
after.
love
Yeah.
that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
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 Why are you worrying about peeing? Like,
Because I have anxiety because I'm worried
So
about
funny.
these things right now.
so
Airports
funny.
have bathrooms.
Yeah,
You'll be
like
good.
relax.
It's like we have bathrooms in Canada. Relax.
It'll be okay.
I do nothing as usual.
You wrote the script.
Okay, I got some stuff. My brain is working. It's good.
Right. Oh, I look very dead. It's fine.
1, 2, 3. Done.
Okay.
Bye.
Jamie, one last question, very, very, very quickly.
Uh-oh.
It's digging in my brain. Your least favorite song. Your least favorite song.
Love they say.
What
Love
do you
they
say?
say. Yeah.